Okay, so we got the X-Men director essentially confirmed, although small caveat to that, but let's go through the last couple of days here. The director of Marvel's X-Men movie just got confirmed in the most roundabout way. IO9 has confirmed that Black Panther helmet Ryan Coogler says Thunderbolts director Jake Schreier is directing X-Men. A new X-Men movie is coming out. This much we know to be true. Jake Schreier, director of the X-Men recent film Thunderbolts, or rather Marvel's film Thunderbolts, is also expected to be directing it. That had yet to be officially confirmed, but IO9 and one of Schreier's fellow Marvel directors both agree that it's true. Speaking to Metro Entertainment about his new show Ironheart, executive producer Ryan Coogler, who also, of course, directed Black Panther movies, shut down rumors that he could be directing a new X-Men movie because Jake is directing that. Jake as in Jake Schreier, who was in early talks last month. IO9 reached out to Marvel about Schreier's involvement, and a spokesperson confirmed the news. So somebody at Marvel confirmed that Jake Schreier is indeed the X-Men director. And while both we and Coogler have confirmed the X-Men director, someone should tell Schreier. Speaking at a film festival in Malta, reported on by Collider, Schreier was asked if he was directing the X-Men movie, and he would not fess up. Here's what he said, and it's actually kind of interesting. Even if I were confirmed on that movie, I don't think I would be allowed to answer that question, he said. I guess what I would say is that it always starts from characters and working with great writers and collaborators. And certainly think about how to do something different with any project you take on. That's as much as I can say. Oh, that's interesting. Well, Jake, we'll say it just like Ryan said it. You're directing X-Men, at least for now. That's a fair point. There's always a chance that things could change before the film goes in front of cameras, and it might be a good long while before that happens. That's fair. Marvel is currently in pre-production on only one film, Avengers Doomsday, which is scheduled to come out in December. Because of that, the studio is not doing a major panel at San Diego Comic-Con this year, which is where the news on the X-Men could be broken. We have to wait a year for more information, ? That seems possible, but in the meantime, we know Schreier is on the case. Okay, so definitely an interesting set of circumstances here. You will recall that this was actually said in the Hollywood trades multiple times. And one of the more interesting elements of this was last week, like late last week, the Hollywood Reporter ran a Heat Vision article. And in it, they kind of like seemingly just dropped that Jake Schreier is confirmed as the X-Men director. And a whole bunch of people were like, wait, what? Like, that's crazy. That's actually really big news that they dropped that. Then there were other people that were saying like, oh, I don't know if it's true, this, that, second, and the third. Well, seems like it's like the worst kept secret in Hollywood, and everybody knows that it's real. Now, Jake, I believe the reason you're seeing Jake be so reluctant to talk about it is this is maybe the biggest opportunity of his life. Thunderbolts, for sure, big opportunity. Getting the X-Men, whole different ball game. Crazy, okay? So, obviously, this is a big deal. Marvel's courting him. They think he's the pick for it. Now, let me just say, there's a chance he doesn't get it, and I want to talk about that in a second. But now, let me explain why I think Jake is actually an incredible choice for the X-Men films. Sorry, Bo DeMeo, but he is an excellent choice for these films, okay? Now, we actually had this conversation after Thunderbolts, because this is when the rumors first started popping up. In fact, I think the trades teased it week 2, going into week 2 of Thunderbolts, which was probably just to get hype for Thunderbolts. Didn't end up working, you know. Thunderbolts had a pretty big drop off and then goes on to just not make any money. But the point is, even way back then, I spoke up in the middle of the whole Thunderbolt thing and said that I thought Jake would be an incredible director. Here's a couple of reasons why. I think one thing he showed in Thunderbolts was the ability to handle the ensemble cast, but also a cast that had a lot of unique powers and abilities. Okay? So you've got John Walker, who's kind of like military dude, you know, knows a whole bunch of stuff, has a lot of ideas, and can conceive of strategies and plans. Also, very powerful super soldier. I don't know if you know this, but John Walker is actually stronger than Steve Rogers. That is true in the comics. That is also true in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The super soldier serum that John Walker takes is stronger than that of Steve Rogers, man. Pretty wild, right? So you have that character, Brute, with military background. You have Ghost, very crazy powers, man. The way she uses her powers, flipping around, going invisible, teleporting, and all that stuff, very interesting. Very similar to like Kitty Pryde, a friggin' Nightcrawler, even possibly Magic and her limbo portals. Like, that's very equivalent to X-Men. Okay. On top of that, you've got the Red Guardian, big old brute doing crazy brute strength things, you know, not too smart, not too savvy, but has a big fucking heart. You have Yelena, small little ass dainty thing that absolutely is unbelievable in action sequences. And yet sometimes they make it work with a lot of like flipping around and her body movements and all that sort of stuff. You know, good with the pistols and whatnot. And then you have you've got Bob, right? And Bob is so interesting. He's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He's the Hulk, right? He's the ticking time bomb. He's ungodly levels of powerful, and that is such an X-Men thing. That is such an X-Men thing because the X-Men, they'll have a lot of powerful characters, but then they have Omega level powerful characters, right? That's the whole thing with the X-Men. Part of the reason why the world fears the mutants is because it's super unpredictable, the power level and the power set that a mutant will have. And when their powers come is often, you know, in younger years, around the time of adolescence or, you know, going through puberty, which was an important allegory in the original works. This is all meant to create these circumstances where incredibly powerful beings out of nowhere will do things that are shocking, and that causes a lot of turmoil. So, ticking time bomb, very, very powerful characters. The threat of how powerful an Omega level mutant can be, I think Jake literally already handled that. He handled it via Sentry in that movie. Okay? Now, another reason I think Jake Schreier is really a great director, and again, this is a point I made in the past, but I think the point absolutely still stands. Jake is handling politics well. And you might be like, wait, what? How is there politics? Like, what do you mean by politics, Josh? What are you talking about? You know? Well, the Sarah Palin character in the movie, Valentina, right? She represents a political force. Okay? It's literally on Capitol Hill. You have senators. You have packets. You have fundraisers. Like, you're living in an actual political environment, doing politics, and it didn't feel divisive. It didn't feel like there was culture war politics. It didn't feel like any real world political allegory or point was being made in the film. And at the end of the day, that's really fucking important because I don't know if you noticed, but there's this culture war raging and everybody gets so butthurt about this thing, that thing as viewed through the lens of the culture war. Here's the thing that's crazy about the X-Men. The X-Men are inherently political. They are inherently an allegory for civil rights. And all throughout the history of the fucking world, that has been a benefit to those characters. It's been a benefit to that IP, but it's also in the current timeline, within the parlance of our time, a tricky fucking thing. The climate right now makes it so one of the endearing aspects of these characters is potentially a big drawback depending on how you handle it. What I'm saying is, we don't want it to be divisive. People should be able to just appreciate the X-Men, maybe not even on the surface level completely understand that it's an allegory for civil rights, but understand that there's a world that fears them, wants to control them, doesn't trust them, treats them as lesser than, and yet they have to protect even those people. That's like the beauty of the X-Men. And to me, you look at Thunderbolts, I see Jake Schreier walking a really important line with literal politics in a way that didn't feel culture war politically divisive. That's actually really fucking important and incredibly important to the X-Men themselves. So I think when you consider the political stuff, when you consider the ensemble stuff, and then the other thing too, like, let's just be real, Thunderbolts is really good, man. Like, I think there's still a contingent of people that frankly haven't seen it, that are just trying to like pretend it's not, or perhaps say that because it lost a bunch of money, it's not good. You're wrong, dude. You're fucking wrong. This shit is fire. Thunderbolts is incredible. It has flavor. It feels like a lived-in Marvel Cinematic Universe. The characters have actual emotions. Their dynamic is interesting. The emotion is there. The spectacle is there. The jokes are there. It's well balanced. God damn, Thunderbolts is good. God damn, Thunderbolts is good. So I think Jake is the guy on 3 big accounts, guys. And I think those accounts actually really matter. Now, here's the last thing I want to say on this. Okay? There's still a chance he doesn't do it. I know this is gonna fucking sound crazy, and in a way it's like, God damn it, we just talked about it. Maybe I even got you excited about it. Maybe I even sold you on it. Still might not happen. Here's why. As the article points out, I think X-Men is actually far ways off. Now, Marvel seems to know how important this is. Remember, over a year ago, they were receiving pitches from writers. Writers. They didn't even have a director, but they had writers. And they were getting pitches. They took 9 months looking at pitches from writers before they got the dude they have now. I'm blanking on his name. No disrespect. I think his name's Julian. I'm blanking on it. Point is, this X-Men movie, they've been moving along quietly behind the scenes, and you could tell by the way they're handling this production. They know it's really important. They know it's a super big deal. So the writing process has started. They seem to have the directorial pick here in Jake. A couple of things that I think could make it so Jake doesn't do this film. Number one, if Thunderbolts performs really badly on digital and streaming. Right now, Thunderbolts is a movie that lost money, and yet I think it's going to do very well on digital. I think it's going to do much better than Captain America. I think it's going to do it much better than a lot of other Marvel movies, maybe even DC movies, Sony movies, etc. on digital. I think Craven made, we just talked about an article maybe a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. There was a moment where there were some numbers that came out for Craven. I think it made like 130 million in what they call T1 or period one digital sales, when you can buy it or rent it digitally before it hits streaming for free. I think it made like 130 million. If fucking Craven the animal rights activist can make 130 milli in digital, I'm telling you, I think Thunderbolts is going to crush, okay? However, if it underperforms digitally, Marvel could pull the plug. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a tough sell. It's a tough sell to be like the guy that brought you a really good movie that lost $100 million and then also lost a bunch of money on digital or didn't make money. That's a tough sell. So that's number one. Number two, and this one, I think this kind of sucks because this wouldn't be Jake's fault either. I think if the Fantastic Four bombs, okay? And I don't think it's going to, but let's be real. If the Fantastic Four bombs and Marvel has to literally stomach a 2025 where all three of their movies bomb, then they need to separate as much as possible from every goddamn thing that happened this year, and that includes Thunderbolts. So if Fantastic Four underperforms or bombs, I could see a scenario in which Marvel is like, I don't want to hear shit about 2025. We cannot have Jake direct this movie. And then they get like a sexier pick, maybe somebody that pops a little bit more in the moment. I actually think that's a possibility as well, okay? Because at the end of the day, it's business. There are things you have to consider. And bro, like, Marvel right now is probably so interested and nervous as far as how Fantastic Four will do, right? It's incredible. It looks incredible. So did Thunderbolts. You know, you would imagine F4, Galactus, Reed Richards, Franklin Richards, Silver Surfer, Johnny Storm, all these characters have more appeal than the B and C level super soldiers from Disney Plus shows and leftover Avengers, right? Like, you would imagine that has a bigger pull. But what we don't know is how much damage is there out there for the Marvel IP? How much damage has there been done to the normies? It is technically possible Fantastic Four underperforms. If it does, I don't think they should have Jake direct X-Men. That might not even completely track. You're like, wait, what? Like, he has nothing to do with Fantastic Four. It's a branding thing. It's like, you do not want to talk about 2025 unless F4 pops off. You want to act like the MCU just started in 2026, basically. Like, that's essentially the thought process. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the whole situation, man. I think Jake is an incredible pick for this. I think he's perfect in a lot of different ways, and I hope that Fantastic Four does well. I hope Thunderbolts does well on digital. I think it drops July 1st, so we'll know soon, relatively soon. And so I hope it all goes well, and I think this would be a great pick for X-Men. I think we would get excited about X-Men. But yeah, that's the updates. Thanks for watching. And if you like this clip, smash a like on the actual video and subscribe to this channel. That way more of these clips get into your feed. I've also linked the full episode below if you want to check out the entire thing, including the Q&A we do with fans. You can also watch this show live. We do it live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And you can also find all of my content, including the videos I put on my main YouTube channel, on the podcast feed.